Philosopher Timothy Morton coined the term hyperobject to describe entities that are so massively distributed in time and space they go beyond the current understanding and perception of objects. Though widespread and nebulous, some common characteristics given to explain them are their non-locality and non-temporality, their inner objectivity and interconnectedness, and their viscousness or ability to stick to human actors. Examples are nuclear weapons and waste, the internet, global warming, the climate, and all the whirring machines of capitalism. The idea is more readily translated to fit concepts that relate to immateriality and things that can't be touched. But what about the objects that are willed to exist in an anthropocentric reality? An actor is born through the lens of object-oriented ontology, a vehicle for environmental bricolage. The production of an object is a relationship built through materials, labor, and time. A dialogue between human and non-human. It would be logical to deem a snowboard a hyperobject. They are made of many different parts, which connect them to many different industrial processes. The more ingredients, the larger the network of connections and inherent weight. Some are inert. Steel and wood eventually go back to the earth through environmental decomposition. When sandwiched with PTEX, fiberglass, and resin, the entire board is hyper-objectified. In combining these materials, an object has been created that will greatly outlast any human that had a hand in assembling it. The wood's origin doesn't matter. It becomes plastic by association. It is not that these materials will never break down. The timescale this will happen in is simply beyond the limited anthropocentric notion of time. These boards are no different. Poplar, cedar, steel edges and inserts, centered PTEX, epoxy bioresin, and hemp in place of fiberglass and top sheet. The removal of fiberglass replaces a heavier industrial product with something more natural. But because of the resin binder, these boards are just as much of a hyperobject as any other snowboard. Camber is the backbone. From contact point to nose, the curve is elongated for buoyancy. The core, thinnest at the nose, grows back to a thick and rigid kicktail. The binding inserts are centered within the camber, maximizing control when riding bound. Traction pads sit behind the inserts, and the kicktail is used like a skateboard when riding unbound. By shifting where the weight sits in relation to the camber profile, the angle of the board is exaggerated, and the volume and shape allow for an effortless float and quick, responsive turns. Two versions are produced. One pure, without steel edges, to be ridden only unbound, and one hybrid, a multi-tool for backcountry exploration. Objects are built on the success of previous objects. They are conglomerations of ideas that have survived the process of trial and error. Only through its activation can something exist in its true form. The transformation from disparate materials to objecthood is a life-giving process. To locate the boundaries of this new object, one must spend time in the field. Starting with small steps off the back porch, the strides become longer and more confident. The day is bigger and the path more defined. The destination continually further and further past the horizon. The more time spent with this hyperobject, the more the philosophical theory begins to shine through. Now, though, the concept transcends the board alone. The various hyperobjects that make up snowboarding become more apparent. The complex networks and relationships that are woven together by it reveal their vast system of roots. The skin track is a hyperobject specific to the winter months. It is a transient utilitarian object, a route designed to safely transport one to the zone of glide. It is also a conduit to the landscape and a deeper mental state. A giant line drawing set into the ground, the stroke dictating the rhythm, flow, and energy required to gain the zone. The more time on the skin track, the deeper the theory. Though a snowboard is a hyperobject in its physical form, there are also much deeper cultural implications that result from its existence. The snowboard is an object that only truly becomes its namesake when activated by a human, turning that human into a snowboarder. For most, it's hyper-viscous. A few link turns and a fire is built. An instant connection made to a network of all snowboarders, past, present, and future. It is a difficult thing to define, though. It exists now in so many different contexts and environments throughout the world that it can't mean the same thing to everyone who participates. As climates shift and change to balance out the hyperobject of Earth's biosphere, the notion of what snowboarding is must remain flexible as well. In reality, the best type of snowboarding is what you have access to today. Thinking back to the timescale of the board, your existence is just a blip. The mountains have been here far longer than humans can perceive and are going nowhere fast. Your life takes place in an era where climate, technology, and landscape can overlap to create an experience that has no inherent utility to human existence. Though it is often questioned in the field of philosophy, one of the main meanings in life is survival. When all that is necessary is accounted for, there exists the privilege to explore outside those bounds. No matter where you may find yourself standing sideways, the experience is a privilege beyond the line of simply existing. Yet once snowboarders know this feeling, in many ways it becomes necessary for their survival. Many leverage quality of life, personal relationships, and financial success because it becomes part of them they can't live without. Some even go against survival instincts and readily put themselves in harm's way to ride a face, drop a cliff, or reappropriate man-made infrastructure and environments. Ultimately, the Earth doesn't care about you. It does not rely on humans to survive. More and more evidence actually points in the opposite direction. Humans are guests here, and when the welcome has been overstayed, it will be resolved. All the materials produced and consumed come from the Earth and will eventually, on some time scale, go back into it. It seems like another meaning in life might be to make peace with your maker while you're still here. No, not the ones in those books, but the Earth. If you have the privilege of living near wilderness, get to know it. Get on the trail, river, or skin track. Become a rock, tree, or stream. Fall into the rhythm of the landscape and let your human timescale dissolve, if only for the afternoon. even if you have to use plastic, a chairlift, or gasoline to get there. In the age of the Anthropocene, it is not readily possible to exist in a way that is environmentally neutral. Objects are sticky, and so is environmental debate. Like it or not, plastic and petroleum are two primary actors in this epoch, and even if you actively avoid them, they will still find you. Rather than demonize the use of these materials, what if they were held as sacred? Instead of seeing the natural materials tainted or denatured by the resin, holding them as so valuable, they must be preserved. These hyperobjects give the ability to get to far out places, but they are also necessary in everyday life so that conditions can allow for an experience outside of basic survival. Snowboarders already tend to worship some objects in a different way. When the utilitarian lifespan of a board has ended, it is common to keep it around to remember where it took you. Some even elevate a dead board to the height of art, displaying them on walls like trophies of war. It is a noble mindset to embody. When the use of an object expires, to still love and worship it for what it was. In a time of increasing planned obsolescence and disposable culture, a greater respect for objects is required. It's not about turning your back on things entirely, but looking towards an elevated relationship to the objects that you deem necessary, and not wasting time and materials on those you don't. Understand your position in it and the power you have or relinquish with your consumption. To own a snowboard is a huge responsibility. Energy travels 93 million miles from the sun to the earth and grows a tree over the course of 2 decades. The tree is removed from its natural cycle to be processed and conformed to dimensional lumber, milled, shaped, laminated, hyper-objectified. The time scale of the material extended indefinitely. When you ride this board, you touch all of these histories and futures and weave them together with all of your own. Acknowledge and honor these connections and ride that shit till it falls apart. Make the materials worth the use and make the use worth the materials. Shred for all the people who are no longer with you, but also for all the trees, plastic, and metal that make it possible. Understand that every step has an impact. Tread lightly and enjoy the ride. Love, the Anthropocene.
say.